Welcome to Profit Sharing in the Real World. I'm your host, Danny Murphy. This podcast features commentary from Dick Erickson, the founder of Sun Tire in North Florida and author of the book, Profit Sharing in the Real World, which is available at Amazon.com. Dick started with one store in the 80s and expanded to 9 stores near Jacksonville and 2 in Tallahassee before selling the company in 2017. In today's episode, Dick is going to talk about the transparency of the profit-sharing plan he had at Sun Tire. Dick, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Danny. Good to be here.
So one of the things that's important to you, or that was important to you, was that it was a defined plan. What do you mean by defined?
That when I would talk to people a lot of times when they'd say, hey, we share profits with the employees, and I'd say, can you tell me about it? I said, well, we kind of take it on at the end of the year. And I said, so no one really knows what percent or anything like that. Well, if you tell them, then you got to live up to it. And, sometimes that might hurt you because you've not had a good year or something. So as I thought through that, and then I ran into the Schwab program that was in fact defined. It's defined in his book. So going, okay, it needs to be. But as soon as you use the word define, what you're really doing is you're also saying it has to be transparent. Because otherwise, defined to some is defined to say, what is it? Don't worry about it. If you said you follow it up with don't worry about it. Well, what do you mean? I mean, either it's defined and if it's defined, I'll be able to, okay, I know it's 2% or whatever percent we're talking about. The number's out there. So the defined, and it also has you break down your layers of the employees, not to put, make this a top heavy company or anything like that. Is where each person is and what percent they get at that level. And at another level, it might be a higher. Well, it is. A lot of times it goes up a little bit, but it's well thought out. And then the number has to be such that it excites them at the end of the time you share with them. And I slowed down on that thought. The thought is really the hourly guys we found, they should have that on a monthly basis. As we moved up to a little different level within the company, it could be quarterly. They get a quarterly bonus of their deal. The number of the percentage of the profit doesn't change, but when they get it does. And then in some people, they would get it at the year ending.
Now, I once worked for a company where it was the profit sharing check at the end of the year was nobody outside top management and accounting knew where those numbers came from or understood them. But it wasn't like that with Sun Tire. You spelled it out. It was documented, right?
Yes.
In a way that everybody could understand.
Yeah. And Danny, what would it do? At the end of the month, when it rolled out and said, okay, when we had 5, 6 stores, ended up with 11, everyone within a meeting would get a chance to see the other stores' numbers. And we wanted that they knew that. So, and it was imperative the managers shared that with them. So the point is, so they could look over at a store across town and it'd say, man, they are. And it would tell them it was transparent. Their sales, what the profitability was, the number of employees were there and all that. And so it told them the whole story. And they knew at the end of the month what that tire changer was going to get for a bonus in that store. And if it was better than theirs, I mean, it was it was a challenge. Well, if they can do it, why can't I? What's going on here? And all the way to ask your manager a little bit about that. What are we missing?
So the transparency also involved showing people the various expenses and costs of the business, including your salary.
Well, yeah, talking about my salary, what I had to do is commit to taking a salary that didn't hurt the company. I have seen too many companies out there that take care of the CEO or he gets this big deal. And I'm looking, why would that happen? In many cases, he's going to get this. If a lot of the CEOs and stuff and of the company, like myself, were getting in that half, the other 50%. So there was money there. We had real estate that came along. That was not necessarily part of it. There was a rent factor, but it wasn't in the expense part beyond what the rent was. So the point is, the owner got taken care of, but don't overly take care of him to the point that it's hurting the others. So we maxed what a CEO could take. We, meaning me, said, I don't think I should take more than that. And it kept me, at bay. And I believe in that completely. And there's some people as owners would not take it anything from the stores. There might be a management or something behind the scenes that they would be aware of. For instance, we paid administration 4%. My salary really came out of that 4%. So if it wasn't, 4% wasn't a big number, I wasn't getting a big number. As the 4% number grew, not the percent, but the dollars, I could access more money possibly. But I found too, as I grew, I might need another person in there to help me. So I got to a point that it made sense for the CEO not to make more than that.
So the 4% you're mentioning, I take it that was gross income?
That was the gross dollar sales of the stores. And we would take 4% was the number initially that we took from each store for corporate overhead.
Now, I know you like to mention that, a tire changer making $400 a week. Under your profit sharing plan, he could come away with an extra check at the end of the month,
right,
equal to his regular pay. That was pretty exciting, wasn't it?
It was. And the 400, remember, I got into this business early in the game, so the numbers have definitely increased for the tire changer. But I think the real deal is when that number got very close or it could exceed what his weekly pay was for his 40, 50-hour work week.
Now, you had managers as well and assistant managers who were making more than you at one time or another.
They were getting a bigger number than I was when they looked at their full program of what I took out of the company. Yes. And that became some of the salary of a manager was determined by the volume of his business, besides the percent of the profits that he got. And that we did not throw in also his retirement plan. Yeah.
Well, Dick, is there anything else you'd like to say about profit is there anything more you'd like to say about transparency, defined profit sharing, that sort of thing?
I probably could go on, Danny, with numerous thoughts and ideas about that, but it is paramount. I can't tell you how important it is to be open with the truth about the numbers. And because some people don't realize that they're as smart as probably anyone in the company a lot of times. And we sometimes they're young. They read numbers. They can see what's going on in the store, and the transparency just makes the program, it validates the program.
So transparency also helped with trust in the relationship between you and your employees.
Absolutely.
And that had to be positive for the business.
Yeah, I got the one where I got called out by a manager one day when I had to shave. Now, the shaving's not a number, but it was, hey, we got transparent in this company on other things, and
you had a policy where managers and employees had to come in clean shaven, to the point where you kept some shaving gear in the bathrooms so that if a guy came in without shaving, he would be able to shave.
That's right. We fired out. Don't send him home. We need him here working. Go back and shave. Come on back and let's go. But we did have that rule. Some said it was from the military background that I came from, but maybe not. It was still we're going to be presentable to the customer.
And that time that you showed up not clean shaven, you were on vacation with your wife out in Pensacola or something.
I came back by a store, thought I'd have lunch close by, go say hi to the guys. And the manager came up afterwards and said, Mr. Erickson, don't we have a rule here about showing up at the store shaving? And I'm going, and I felt my face and I said, I can't believe I did this. I said, yes, and it'll not happen again.
So in your mind, that was a vacation day, but in his mind, you were an employee coming to the store without. Did he send you to the bathroom to shave?
No, he didn't go that far. And I would have probably stuck it up. Now, it's pretty hard to take, but anyhow, yes.
That's interesting. Well, it's been interesting as always, Dick. You've been listening to Profit Sharing in the Real World. Dick Erickson's book of the same name is available at Amazon.com. have a question for Dick to address in a future podcast, or if you have a story about how you've seen profit sharing work in the real world, please send an email to me, Danny Murphy. Email address is danny@successstory.biz. That's success story, completely spelled out, .biz. Thank you for listening.